Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to another special Between Takes episode of Missing Frames. I'm your host, Shawn Eastridge. Normally on Missing Frames, we watch all the movies we should have seen by this point in our lives, but every so often we do these Between Takes episodes where it's off the beaten path. We're reviewing a movie, we're talking about something, or we just need to complain a lot. And I think in this case, that last one is probably the option
absolutely
we're looking at. And there's nobody I can think of who I enjoy complaining with more than one Mr. Matthew Schott, who is back with me after an extended hiatus. Matt, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me for only the bad DC movies. That's the only reason you ever have me around.
Supergirl and Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think
look for me next week, and when we do Halle Berry's Catwoman, it'll be great.
We'll do. I was about to say Kazam in Steel, not Shaquille O'Neal. Kazam. So I. Oh boy. Okay. So Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's what we're here to talk about. And I think, I guess we should just start with a little bit of history on both of us.
Yes.
Where we stand with Zack Snyder in general. And I want to put a warning out there for those of you who are big Zack Snyder fans. Well, I don't think I disliked this movie as much as you did. So I'm going to try really, really hard to play the part of the apologetic, defending the movie when possible. But I can only do so much. But that being said, fair warning. If you are a fan of this, I 100% guarantee you will hate us. And feel free to let us know in the comments how much you hate us, or just turn this off. You know, my poor self-esteem can only take so much.
Or leave it on and just yell at your device, and I will hear it, and I will feel all of your words.
We can, through this. It's an amazing technology that we've developed where we can actually feel the vibrations, the resonations of your pain and suffering. Only related to Zack Snyder properties, though. We haven't been able to figure it out for other projects yet, but I think eventually we'll get there.
Yeah, sooner or later. But for now, with each complaint that you lodge against me, one of those hooks from Hellraiser will just shoot from the wall and snag a piece of my skin. So look forward to that.
That's going to be great. I can't wait. So Matt, start from the beginning. Tell me a little bit about Zack Snyder. I think we both feel the same way, where neither of us started off being like, oh, Zack Snyder, I hate this guy, or like his name wasn't something that you dreaded when it came to movies. Like, just start from the beginning. Like, did you see the Dawn of the Dead remake?
I did. I saw it in theaters, and if you had asked me after leaving that theater what I thought of it, I would have told you that was my favorite movie of all time. Like, I was so into the Dawn of the Dead remake. The first time I saw it, I thought it was like a masterpiece. I mean, I was zombie crazy at that time. I've always had a love for zombie fiction, and that movie felt like it was tailor-made for me. It was just violent and just like nonsensical and just, you know, and that was what I wanted. I've since revisited it, and my opinion has shifted about as drastically as one can have an opinion shift. But I think I felt similarly with like 300 when that came out. You know, it was the same thing of like, I was like a teenager for both of these movies, and I was like, that was so cool. It was like, and the guy was like, and like, that's all I wanted. I thought no more about movies. I
remember
that.
300 had like the best trailer I'd ever seen. Like This Is Sparta stuff. I was quoting it so much, and my friends and I were so excited to see that movie.
Yeah, and it was riding off that hype of like, I had just seen Sin City, which was like the previous year, and I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. So I was like, oh my god, this is like more Frank Miller, more comic book slow motion craziness. Like, sign me up. I have not revisited 300 since it has been in theaters, and I frankly have no interest in doing so. I don't think I would find any enjoyment in the process of revisiting it. But did you see the Dawn of the Dead remake when it came out?
I didn't. I still haven't. 300 is the one I think I would. I haven't seen that in a long time either. I own it, and I should watch it. I feel like 300's the one that I would still stand by as like, I enjoy this. I think it's good to an extent, if that's what you're looking for. I think it's visually cool. I think there's some really, really awesome stuff in it. But even when I first saw it, I remember thinking like, this feels like like it's not telling me an emotionally satisfying story. Like, it felt like there was like something disconnecting me from the film. I think it was the style of it. It was very stylized. And I watched it again a couple times and I was like, oh no, I'm still into this, but it's been maybe 10 or 15 years since I last watched it.
I would compare the experience of watching 300 to the experience of reading something like The Horse and His Boy, where you start to think about it for like 1 second and
That's
you're like,
exactly what I was going to say.
wait a
It's
minute,
like
why are all
Zack
the
Snyder, C.S. Lewis.
I was just gonna say, because you think about the story and you're like, wait a minute, why were all the Middle Eastern people like monsters, and why were like the heroic white people that worship like the right gods, why were they like the correct? Wait a minute, and you start to like put those pieces together. I mean, I think 300 is much more egregious than The Horse and His Boy in that regard, where they're all just like literal monsters, and it's like also weirdly homophobic for like, I mean, the Greeks, those dudes.
See,
like,
now that's not how that movie actually turned me gay. Like I have that movie to thank. I was like, my God, Gerard Butler. I would agree with you, except that movie does feel so kind of homoerotic in a way, like that. I just know.
I mean,
a Snyder fanboy is out there right now, and he just lost his wings. The last thing a Snyder fan wants to be referred to as is homoerotic.
Regardless, it's, I think all of those movies, after like a couple of years, I started to like think back on them and be like, hey, wait a minute. And I think by the time like like Sucker Punch that was coming out, it was just like, all right, I've seen this dude's one trick and I don't care anymore.
Sucker Punch, I think, was the breaking point for a lot of people. And to be fair, with 300, I read 300 before the movie came out, and that is not like Frank Miller's shining moment.
No.
Zack Snyder's 300 is it improves upon the comic book, because it's basically the comic book.
Yeah.
There's not much story. There's not much character. So, I mean, to be fair, that's like Snyder's wheelhouse. He wants to make something that is visually stimulating, doesn't necessarily stir the emotions, but like it can like get your adrenaline pumping. But I remember, 300 I liked. Watchmen I liked too. We saw that together, I'm pretty sure.
We did.
Watchmen, honestly, I don't think I will give Zack Snyder some credit here. I think he did about as good a job adapting Watchmen as anybody could have done, because that's like a near impossible property to adapt.
So,
and of course, the HBO show is a sequel, and I loved that, but that's not an adaptation of Watchmen. That's kind of a pseudo sequel doing its own thing. But
I had the same thought about Watchmen for a really long time. I felt the same way about Watchmen as I did about like the movie Cloud Atlas, where I was like, you tried, you gave it your best shot. But I revisited Watchmen early, I think last year, when a friend of mine read the graphic novel for the first time, and I sat down with her and I was like, let's watch the movie, because like that'll be like an interesting thing to like watch now that you've read the graphic novel. And we could not finish it. It was a miserable experience, and like it really doesn't, I mean, it's a weird adaptation because it's like faithful. It's like slavishly faithful, but at the same time seems to completely miss the point very often. Like Rorschach and the comedian both are very glorified in the movie as like, these are some badass dudes. Like the movie is so on the comedian side, especially, which is insane. If you've read the comic, he is not a cool dude. Nobody in that comic is a cool dude. No. And Zack Snyder seems to strongly disagree with that, and very much paints a picture of like, no, Rorschach is the hero of this story. He is a noble and principled man. And I mean, like the fact that the movie feels so saturated, the comic is so beautifully colorful, and the movie is so drab and just like ugly to look at. I mean, like, and the Ozymandias is so horrible in that movie. Like every scene he's in is just sleep inducing.
Yeah, Watchmen is, I think that was an impossible task to adapt it. But to be fair, I think something, and we'll probably talk about this more, but I think where Snyder starts to lose me is I think Snyder is really good at he carbon copies the material. Like with 300, it was perfect because he was like, I just have to put this on screen. I don't have to do much. I don't have to add much. The problem with Watchmen is you do that. Watchmen is far more philosophical and thoughtful and dense and complex than 300. So you
Yeah.
take a work like that, and if you don't have anything to say about it, or you don't quite understand what Watchmen is trying to say, and you just say, well, I'm just going to carbon copy this and then add my cool action scenes in it, it messes, like you said, at the core, Watchmen is not really glorifying these characters, and
Not at
it's actually kind
all.
of condemning them. And I think there was a general misunderstanding where Snyder kind of was like, well, it looks cool, and if I add some fight scenes in here, it'll be awesome, but missed
Yeah.
the point on the thematic stuff. Sucker Punch was like, I watched about half of it and was like, I'm good. I can't deal with this anymore. And then it was Man of Steel. Now,
Whew.
I'm a big Superman fan, as you
Mm.
know.
Yes.
Superman is my favorite superhero. The first time I saw Man of Steel is a departure for Zack Snyder because it's a little more grounded.
It's an odd thing to say about a
An
movie about a
odd
man
thing
who
to say.
flies.
But he definitely tried to shoot it as if it was like, oh, it's not stylized in the same way that Watchmen or 300 or Sucker Punch is. It's like kind of
Right.
grounded documentary style, like lots of handheld shots and things like that. I'm a huge Superman fan. The first time I saw it, I enjoyed it. I think I resigned myself to the fact that I was like, okay, well, if I've never seen a big like Superman action movie before. Superman 2 is about as close as I got. And that movie does not hold
I
up
mean,
well.
there's the minigun scene in Superman Returns.
Superman
where
Returns, yes.
The
Superman
bullet hits his
Returns.
eye.
Superman Returns, I'm a fan of Superman Returns, but I will also admit that movie is not great either. So I think Man of Steel I enjoyed because I resigned myself to like, okay, well, this is going to be. I forget about the fact that he's blowing up like a huge portion of Metropolis and that he's not rescuing anybody. He doesn't seem to care about anybody except Lois and his mom, who also by extension doesn't care about humanity. So I enjoyed it the first time I saw it. I saw it a couple more times, still enjoyed it. And a lot, like, you really hated it. People around me really hated it. And I was like, well, I didn't hate it. And then I got it on Blu-ray, watched it at home, and I just remember getting a headache. Like, I was just like, just the pounding action and the dubstep machine that was destroying Metropolis. And then also the realization of like, is Superman just like, I realized it's like, he doesn't care about people.
No.
And Superman, to me, what makes Superman so special is the fact that like this guy who's the most powerful being on the planet in the universe, loves people and just wants to be like a normal person and is kind of dweeby, and he's got that all shucks vibe. So if you take that away from Superman, he's just kind of like an all powerful like guy, and that's not interesting to me. And Snyder leans into that, but he goes a step further by making him like reluctant and conflicted and angry and depressed in a way that's not, on the surface it's like, oh yeah, it's a little bit darker, but like it doesn't go any deeper than the surface. It doesn't mean anything, and they don't explore Superman in a way. And the biggest thing was like at the end when he kills Zod, it was like, okay, well, that's weird. Why would Superman kill Zod? That didn't bother me as much as the fact that they never set up that Superman or Clark has a problem with killing. It's just something they assume the audience knows. So it's like, oh, you're just upset because Superman kills somebody. I'm like, well, no, I'm upset that the movie didn't even try to explain to me that he's somebody who doesn't kill people.
I mean, I saw Man of Steel for the first time with you, I think either the same day or the day before we went to see Batman v Superman.
That's right.
And that was the first time I had seen it, because I was just like, no, there's no universe in which I'm going to like that movie. So, like, why would I watch it? And I knew I wouldn't like Man of Steel, but I was so caught off guard by how just baffling a movie it is. I mean, there's so much time spent on this weird Matrix world that is Krypton, and that whole sequence is just so disorienting and just off-putting and dumb. And then we go from that to just this dour, mopey movie, which like it has the least interesting take you could possibly have on Superman, which is just like it seems to me that the only thing Zack Snyder finds interesting about Superman is the fact that he's like invincible and is super strong. You know, his Superman has this attitude of like, don't f- with me. And it's like that to me. And I'm not the Superman scholar you are, but I don't feel like that's Superman's whole deal.
I feel like we have that character in other, like, as seen in other comics. Like, you can find that character, the guy who's so powerful and just a badass and like tears people apart. The whole
Yeah.
point of Superman is that he doesn't do that. To me, what summarizes Superman is not the fact that he punches somebody really hard, although that's great. It's the fact that he punches somebody really hard because that person is trying to hurt someone. Like Superman's a defender.
Yeah.
He loves people. He protects people. So when you make a movie that's just him, like, I just think of the scene where Zod kicks the oil tanker at him and he kind of casually jumps over it as it blows up the building behind him. And he just has this like fierce look on his face. And I'm just thinking like, this is the epitome of why this doesn't work for me.
I mean,
but
I think my personal conception of Superman is somebody who, like, you know, in my head, when I think of him, I always think of him kind of standing there with his arms folded, right? As like some criminal is like shooting at him and it's just like, you know, harmlessly bouncing off. And he's just like, now, don't you do that, mister.
yes,
You know, and like that to me is the epitome of Superman, because he's not even like fighting this hypothetical criminal, you know, he knows he doesn't have to. And like, he's not out here to just like kick everybody's ass. He's like just trying to help people, right? He like cares about everybody and he wants to help everybody. And I think Zack Snyder's Superman, I would have said that the perfect scene to sum him up is when he rolls his eyes at the Capitol bombing in Batman v Superman. But I will say that I think there's another scene now in Zack Snyder's Justice League that I think sums up what Zack Snyder thinks Superman is. And that's when he shows up to the big fight at the end and the axe like lands on him and he goes, not impressed.
Oh my God.
And I was like,
hold on, wait. No. We're going to get there. Okay.
All right,
so
we'll get
real
there,
quick.
we'll get there.
So we saw Batman v Superman together and we just lost it. That was the first time really, like, as I said, I didn't like Sucker Punch. Batman v Superman was the first time I actually think I went into a Zack Snyder movie and came out just like miserable.
Yeah.
Oh
my God.
And not, but like that movie flat out, I think if there was any question of how Zack Snyder feels about Superman, that movie made it abundantly clear that he hates the character. And,
so much.
And I didn't love Ben Affleck as Batman. I think Ben Affleck is extremely talented as an actor, as a director, as a writer. I do not see him as Batman. I'm sorry. I see Batfleck. I see Ben Affleck in a borderline fat suit, and I just don't buy it. It's not his fault. It's the fact. Well, it is his fault. He's Ben Affleck. I don't see him as Batman.
At the end of the day, I feel like it's going to be impossible for somebody to portray like a really like faithful and compelling Batman when he's driving around a bat car with mounted machine guns on them, which, like, I mean, I got to talk about this for a second because it comes up in Justice League also, but I just was sitting there thinking to myself, like, why would Batman put guns all over his car? Like, I mean, first of all, Batman, of all the people on the planet, should be the person most opposed to guns. He should hate guns more than anybody. Yeah. But also, like, what day-to-day, like, crime-solving purpose does machine guns on the Batmobile solve? I mean, he's stopping muggers and the Riddler. Is he like gunning these people down with
there's an
guns?
idea that I like, that I think people have used to defend like murdering, or not to defend murdering Batman, to defend murderous Punisher Batman. And the problem is you can make assumptions all you want about what Zack Snyder's intention was, but it's not in the narrative of the film. It's not remotely expressed. But the idea is that Batman / Bruce Wayne is in a dark place because off-screen Joker killed Robin. So now he's angry and depressed, and Batman's arc in Batman v Superman is that Superman brings him back to the point of like, no, we can be a hero. Yeah, well,
Superman's just as miserable.
So that's why they set Superman up as a beacon of hope, but he's always miserable. We've only seen him destroy cities and like be miserable rescue. I've never seen a less heroic montage than the one of Superman rescuing people. It is in Batman v Superman. It is so depressing and makes me so upset because like it's such a fundamental misunderstanding of that character. But like, I think that was the idea for Batman, is like, oh, he's gone off the deep end because he lost Robin and now he doesn't care. But Superman makes him feel better at the end. We've been talking for 20 minutes about Zack Snyder movies and haven't even gotten to the Snyder Cut. I feel like this is actually a good metaphor for the Snyder Cut, where it spends a lot of time talking about things before anything actually happens.
The opening of the Snyder Cut makes it really clear that Batman v Superman is the first part of that story. So
Yeah.
I think this is at least related. I mean, you know, Batman v Superman is the ground upon which this Justice League movie is constructed, and I don't think it's really possible to tell a good story with that foundation because it's
Yeah.
rotten. You know, I mean, there's no good characters. You know, everybody sucks. Everybody's miserable. It is so like, and you've seen the extended cut. I've only seen the theatrical cut of Batman v Superman, but it
Yeah.
is just a
Well,
miserable slog.
people have, and to be fair, I only watched it once, and I can't recall it like verbatim like some people do, but I know some people have been like, oh, it completely changes the movie. It's suddenly a great movie. Almost the same thing with the Snyder cut and the theatrical cut of Justice League. And to me, I'm like, no, it's the same movie. It's just longer and it's given a little bit more room to breathe. But I'm sure people who are like, Sean, I thought you were going to be defending Zack Snyder. I'm sorry, not yet. I'll get there. But yeah, let's talk about the theatrical cut of Justice League.
Okay.
Did you see that?
I did. I saw it in theaters.
What did you think of it?
I mean, it felt like it felt like a joke of a movie. I mean, it felt like it felt like exactly what it was. You know, it was hacked together from like a half finished like stupid movie with a bunch of added stuff that felt really just like dumb and goofy. I mean, it was bad, and like I laughed about it and then forgot about it like
Yeah.
instantly. It was a nothing movie to me.
It was bad, and it wasn't like there was something like so morally wrong at the center of Batman v Superman and Man of Steel that Justice League, because Joss Whedon was brought in to reshoot, and because like DC and Warner Brothers at that point was like, no, we no longer want Snyderverse. We no longer, please get, because Batman v Superman did not, it was like atrociously received. Like it got horrible reviews. And then box office wise, I don't even think it broke $1 billion. Like, so it technically like, I don't know if it lost money, but it didn't make the money they wanted. So they knew they were not heading in the right direction. So by Justice League, Zack Snyder was already shooting it. And I think Warner Brothers panicked and they wanted to like get out as far away from Zack Snyder's Justice League as possible. And unfortunately, I mean, what the unfortunate circumstance was that Zack Snyder's daughter Autumn died and he had to step away, and Warner Brothers basically turned Justice League into kind of a hodgepodge of like, now it's going to be fun and like the Marvel movies, but it just doesn't work when you set these up.
It really doesn't. And I mean, like I think the key thing that sets my feelings about the Justice League movie apart from like everyone else that well, a lot of people that I've spoken to about it, is that like I don't think that I think that Justice League has problems, the theatrical cut, but I think that all of those problems are retained in the Snyder cut and enhanced. I think that like all like I would probably say to you, if there was no Snyder cut and we were just talking about the theatrical cut, all of the problems I would list, probably one of them would be like, well, the jokes are all like lame and hobbled together and they all kind of fall flat. But then everything else that I would have to say about that movie and what's wrong with it is still there, like because it's all built on that.
There was one thing I really liked about the theatrical cut of Justice League, and it's that Superman behaves like Superman.
Yeah,
I remember being so delighted. There's a moment at the end in the climactic scene, because something they take out of the Snyder cut, of course, is like them rescuing people from
yes,
the
of
city.
course. He's not interested
because
in that.
why? Yes, he doesn't care. So, but I remember there's a point where I think it's Batman talking to Superman, and Superman like holds up his hand and goes, "Wait, there are civilians in trouble," and he flies off. And I remember thinking like, hey, there's the Superman I know and love. He cares
also,
about people. He wants
like,
to help people. Maybe it's completely out of character with what's been established, but it was such a nice moment for me, feeling so miserable about the way they treated Superman that
and there's like banter, and the banter doesn't work. Like 99.9% of the time the banter doesn't work, but it's nice to see like at least them trying to be like, no, these people like each other, I guess.
Yeah.
They like want to work together. Which that was something that was really startling to me to see, was pretty much just like totally gone in the extended and the Snyder cut. Was just like, I get that he's not much for like jokes or whatever, but it just seemed like none of these people had like any character anymore, and they didn't seem like they wanted to hang. I mean, again, I don't think Joss Whedon's cut works, but I appreciate that he at least tries to be like, no, this is like a group of people fighting together, and they should have some kind of rapport with one another.
Yes, yeah, I get that too. So yeah, So I think we've well established that we're not Zack Snyder fans, and we were not looking
No.
forward to the Snyder cut. Um, so l- I'll summarize the story. Everybody knows this. Basically, as we said, the tragedy of Zack Snyder's daughter's death took him away from the project. Joss Whedon was shot in to reshoot it, and Warner Brothers kind of was like, well, finally we can move on to bigger and better things. They wanted to focus on Wonder Woman because Wonder Woman had just given them the best money and
Right.
the best critical response they'd received up to this point, and they were ready to move on. But there was the whole release the Snyder Cut thing. Zack Snyder kept teasing that there was indeed a Snyder Cut that existed, and finally, I mean, what's really cool, somebody tweeted this out. I can't remember who. I wish I could give credit, but somebody said, at the end of the day, what's really cool about this whole Snyder Cut thing is that a filmmaker had to leave a project due to a horrible tragedy, and his fans rallied up around him in order that he could go back and see through his original vision. And I'm like, that is cool. In theory, the story that surrounds the Snyder Cut and what it means for, I may not agree with the filmmaker's artistic vision. I may not particularly like Zack Snyder as a filmmaker or enjoy his films. But in terms of like artistic visions in general and filmmakers getting to express themselves the way they want to, it is a triumph in that regard. Like the Snyder Cut is like a triumph for filmmakers getting to do what they want the way they want without any boundaries or studio interference. So on that level, I want to be clear. I think this is a really cool thing that this happened.
Totally.
I think it's awesome that Zack Snyder got to come back, that he made this project, that he got to do what he wanted, and that he was afforded the opportunity by Warner Brothers. That's really cool. So let's just put that out there that I 100% the circumstances surrounding this, it's really awesome.
I am always going to be in favor of, extended cuts of movies that like the studio didn't want released or whatever. Like I'm always going to be in favor of those things coming out, even if it's just for like the cool, like what if factor of like, oh, what could have been, I'm always in favor of that. And I agree with you entirely. I do not like Zack Snyder as a filmmaker. I'm going to say as a person too, based on a lot of the stuff I've heard him say. But I don't really like any of that stuff, but I appreciate that this thing can exist again on paper, in theory, just as a product in a vacuum. I appreciate that can happen. That's cool. Maybe it's not this kind of thing we need to be like, let's spend, what was it, like $400 million or something on this
the movie. So if Justice League itself costs like $250 million, and then they spent an additional $70 million for Snyder to do his reshoots and to add his footage and to do special. I mean, the movie, like they already lost money on the project, and then I guess they were hoping to get some HBO Max subscribers, and that's where it balances out. But ultimately, yeah, I think we're talking about $400 million total in a movie that lost money.
maybe we didn't need like $400 million in like 2 attempts at this story in particular. But again, in a vacuum, always happy to see things like this happen.
Sure. So Zack Snyder's Justice League, I wasn't really that excited about it. I think for me personally, let me switch modes here. I've been clear I'm not a Zack Snyder fan. I'm going to switch modes because I do think I liked this movie more than you did. And I'm going to, as the person who does not hate this movie, I'm going to try to be the defender, the devil's advocate, whatever it is. But I want to be clear. While I didn't dislike it, I didn't particularly like it. Like, it's not like a movie that I'm like, oh, there we go. Everything is fixed. I think the irony of the scenario is the movie was released. Reviews have been pretty positive, not just within the Snyder fandom, but critics have kind of been like, you know what? Well done. This is it's a coherent film. It works. It's exciting. I'm kind of like, well, hold on. Let's be real. If this was the movie, and it wouldn't have been 4 hours, but if Zack Snyder was able to release a cut of the film that was a reasonable length, 2 to 3 hours, people would have torn it apart. They would have torn this movie apart.
100%.
I don't think this is. I think the reaction to the film is more of what we're saying, where it's like, this is really cool that it happened at all.
I have a theory about this phenomena that I call it the Sonic effect, because I think that it's the same thing that happened with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, where they released that trailer. Everybody's like, this looks like the worst thing I've ever seen. And then they're like, you know what, fans, we're listening, we're improving. And then they released the film with like the quote unquote improved effects. And everybody's like, you know what? Pretty good. They listened, and it's pretty dang good. And that movie is so awful. It is a terrible movie. And I am convinced that if they had initially released it in its like released form without like the worst looking Sonic, people would have torn it apart. They would have been like, this is a piece of shit. This movie fucking sucks. But because it had kind of that good press around it of being like, no, this is like, now you're getting like something like what you really
we
want.
heard the fans.
We're
answering
listening.
the fans.
Yeah, we're giving you guys what you want.
Yeah. Now that's a good example. I don't think you're off base there. Yeah, let's dive into it. So the Snyder Cut, I think, it's twice as long.
Mm-hmm.
There were stretches of it where I was bored out of my mind, like, to be completely honest. I think there's a lot of repetitive stuff. There's a lot of unnecessary stuff. But then there were periods where I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Oh, I like this little character beat they added. Oh, this gave it more time to breathe. I like this. This feels a little bit better. That being said, I think it is basically the same movie as Justice League. Like, I think if you broke it down to story beats and what what the actual plot of the film is, it basically is the same thing. This guy Steppenwolf wants to get the mother boxes, and Bruce Wayne has to unite heroes from around the world to fight off the bad guy, and they have to raise Superman from the dead, resurrect him, and all come together at the end. The stuff they did add stuff. Darkseid's here. They've added a lot of flashbacks to to Lord of the Rings-esque battle sequences that like go on for hours.
Oh my god, yes.
But ultimately, I think what surprised me the most was that it's like, this isn't really a different movie. It's just there's a lot more padding. There's definitely more breathing room. Like, it feels a little bit more like, okay, this is not just like relentless, incoherent. Like, okay, I feel like I understand what's going on here. It feels like a movie. But that being said, I thought it was interesting that people were like, this is so much better. And I was like, it is the same movie, but longer.
Yeah, it is. It reminds me of like when they released the Rogue cut of Days of Future Past, and they were like, you're getting a different experience, and it's like, no, it's the same movie, but now there's another character there. This is like the Dark Side cut. It's like it is yeah. Ostensibly the same movie, only Dark Side. There's a ton of worthless exposition of characters stating time and time again with straight faces about the anti-life equation,
anti-life equation, and a lot of mother box
and
talk.
A lot of mother box talk, and then and of course we'll get to the 20-minute ending sequence. Absolutely, we'll get to that, but the core beats are still the same. They colored Superman's suit a different color for some reason, but the same beats play out. Yes. And it's still the same basic thing. And one of my biggest complaints about the original film was that the Justice League itself as an entity is basically worthless. Once they bring Superman back, the Justice League serves no purpose anymore, because Superman is better at all of the things that they do than them. So there's no reason.
When he says not impressed, he might as well be talking to every single person in the room, and especially Batman, who has in the theatrical cut seemed to, maybe I'm crazy, but he didn't feel as completely worthless in the theatrical cut as he does here. He feels like he does nothing in this movie.
Yeah,
like even Cyborg, his bat car or his bat spider, whatever you call it, that climbs out of the sewer. Cyborg drives the thing, so Batman doesn't even help. He's like, I'm just holding on, and Cyborg's like, I got this, Alfred. That actually, I think, is, if there's one thing, and we'll talk more about it in detail, but if there's one thing I did like about this movie, I think it's Cyborg. In general, I actually really liked Ray Fisher, and I like Cyborg. And to me, him taking charge in that moment felt like he's like, I'm the only character who has an arc in this movie. I'm the only character who's a character in this movie. I'll take it from here. And he drives the whole team out of
Mm,
the sewer and
maybe
saves the day.
maybe that's what we should. Maybe we should break this down by member of the Justice League. We should go. We should go.
I
We
think
should go hero by hero, and we'll. The last two we do should be. Well, I guess we've pretty much said what there is to say about Batman.
yeah,
It's just that he doesn't have
yeah,
any. He doesn't serve much of a purpose. But we'll get to Superman last.
sure.
So let's talk about Cyborg, because I think Cyborg is the big sticking point for a lot of people. The one thing I hear from everybody.
Cyborg is the one. He has the most. When you talk about changes from the theatrical cut,
Yeah.
I think pretty much everyone is the same. Ultimately, like Superman is much different in the theatrical cut, but his story is the same. It's just the
Basically,
final
yeah.
scenes that have changed, really. But pretty much every person, and Aquaman, I think, is a little more goofy in the theatrical cut,
He
but he
is,
doesn't
yeah.
change that much. Cyborg is the one who substantially changes
Yes.
between the theatrical and Snyder.
He does have an arc in this version for sure. And like I gotta preface everything I'm going to say about this movie by saying that, like, all the stuff we've been hearing about Ray Fisher, like, it is he was done unbelievably dirty by Warner Brothers and Joss Whedon, and like I have nothing but support for all of
Well,
that
you
situation.
watch the movie and it's like, oh wow, okay, yeah, I would be pissed too if this
Yeah.
was the movie I had thought I was in, and then the theatrical version is what I
100%.
ended
I
up
mean,
with.
he has like nothing to do in the theatrical cut. And like, you hear stories about like Joss Whedon wanted them to like lighten his skin in the movie, and it sounds like a fucking nightmare. And he is like, I mean, and he is really like calling out Warner Brothers on their shit, and like I could not support that more. However, I still didn't like Cyborg in this movie.
Oh,
I
man.
think the effects on Cyborg look so stupid, and
They're not great.
I could not get my head around that. Honestly, if he had shown up in the Shaquille O'Neal steel suit, I think I would have been able to take him more seriously.
Well, I didn't love. You know what I didn't love? He has a couple atrocious lines of dialogue.
Oh
in
yeah,
this
when he's like,
movie.
"F- the world."
Yeah, that I lost it. I didn't like his origin, like when they're showing him playing football and like what feels like a extensive slow motion sequence of him playing
Mhm.
football. But there was still like the crowd scenes look fake where he's like cheering and his team surrounds him. I'm like, is this
Yeah.
all fake? And then when he's in the car with his mom and she's like, he really wanted to be here, and he's like, my dad never shows up. I was like, this is so stupid. And then she gets hit. They get hit by a car. It just felt very. A guy was like, I'm gonna hate the Cyborg stuff, aren't I? But then it turned out Cyborg, with the stuff they added with like, oh, it takes place in his mind and when he's hacking stuff, and then Cyborg's journey from being like a disinterested character, like what they said Batman was in Batman v Superman, I think applies to Cyborg here, but I think it works. Like, it's like there's an actual, like, Cyborg hates people, and then at the end he's like, no, I'm a good guy and I'm a hero and I'm here. So that actually, it worked for me. I don't think it's
I just think like the computer world as designed is so, it's like everything, like I think the beats of his story are fine. The idea of like he's bitter about like losing his humanity, and so he wants to kind of like distance himself from all of that, and then through these people that he doesn't really seem like he gets along with any of them that particularly well. But for some reason he comes around and like learns the value of humanity and all that. But like all of the stuff around that was just so goofy. I mean, like the computer world in his brain where we saw like the bull fighting with like a bear or something, and like the stock market thing. It felt to me like when like 90s movies would show what hacking looks like, and it would be like, I'm in, and then it'd be a skull that's like brah, 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 brah.
Oh man, I love it.
That's
I
what
wish there had been a
it's
little
so
bit of more
goofy.
of that. That sounds like Mortal Kombat. Like, I want some good 90s CGI in this movie. Yeah, I get that. I don't have, like, in terms of things to say about Cyborg, I don't have much to say other than I enjoyed him, and he was the only character I felt emotionally invested in.
I mean,
in the film.
he was the only character that seemed like he had anything going on. I mean, at least he seemed like he was like a human being that had this sort of thing thrust upon him. Like, he had an arc, and I don't feel like any other character in this movie had anything interesting to say or do.
No.
And I will give Cyborg points for that. So this movie will get one Cyborg. I just think
Okay,
that like
good.
everything around him is so dumb that I can't take that seriously. Like
Well,
the,
you
the
pointed
suit is so bad.
Yeah, the effects on it are not great, and
No.
I think you brought up the point. The reason the movie doesn't work for me is with something like the Avengers, you have generally likable or personable people
Yeah.
who are forced to work together, and they don't get along at first, but you get the sense of them being human beings with motivations and goals, and them coming together for the greater good at the end of the movie. And there is a sense of like accomplishment and growth and satisfaction in that. And
Yeah.
Justice League, like you said, nobody really gets along. They all seem to kind of be in their own movies, but there also isn't a sense of personality from any of
No,
them, or any
not
sense
at
of like, why are
all.
they working together?
I mean, the only
and-
one who feels like he has a personality is the Flash, and his personality is insufferable.
Yeah, it's grating. So let's just move on to the Flash.
Yeah, perfect.
We talked about my favorite character in the movie. Flash is probably my least favorite. And what's funny is I don't remember him being so annoying in the theatrical cut, but here, I remember you were telling me, because you watched this before I did, and I was like, no, I liked Ezra Miller. I thought he was all right. But you were not lying. I think part of the problem is, one, his stuff is just not particularly funny. Like the jokes they force in, like where he's the one I think about is the one where they're on the rooftop of Gotham, the Gotham Police Department, and everybody disappears, and he's like, oh, they all just kind of, they do that, don't they? They disappear, huh? That's kind of rude. And it was just like, am I supposed to think this is funny? Like,
Also, like, just Wonder Woman and Aquaman don't do that.
Yeah. Batman's the only one who does. So the joke doesn't work on any level. But maybe it's because Zack Snyder has this like allergic reaction to humor that Ezra Miller sticks out so badly in this movie.
When
the jokes in particular, because the movie is so serious, it takes itself so seriously and is so desperate for the viewing public to take it seriously, that when you have Ezra Miller coming in being like, I got a hot dog for the dogs in my dog walking job, am I hired? I brought a resume, oops, it's all torn up, oh here, let me hand. It just feels so at odds with what's going on in the Snyder vision that I'm like, why?
When I saw the theatrical cut in theaters, my my roommate at the time turned to me and he was like, is the Flash like autistic? Is that his like origin story in the
Maybe,
comics?
maybe.
And I was like, it does kind of feel like Ezra, like I think Ezra Miller was trying to do a like Tom Holland, always befuddled kind of awkwardness, and it just doesn't work at all. It always falls flat. And that scene in particular, the extended Flash scene of him saving who I guess is supposed to be Iris West.
I think so.
From the car crash. Me and the people I watched it with, we were in hysterics at that scene because the sequence plays out of him like pulling her from the car, and then time resumes and the car just like crashes. It's exactly like what you were saying with the oil tanker
Superman,
in Man of Steel. It just like crashes and explodes in this
for
fiery
Snyder
explosion.
It doesn't matter what happens as long as it looks good. People can die, they can be sacrificed for his vision. But that whole scene, I remember the movie about 45 minutes to an hour in, I was like, this isn't bad. It hit a slow spot, but when it got to that scene, that was the first scene where I was like, this is awful. This is terrible. This really doesn't work for me. The hot dogs and
oh god,
it was so.
The fact that his shoes exploded.
His shoes explode. I couldn't put my finger on what the tone of it was, and then something else I think Snyder does in his movies is he adds this like insufferable melodramatic soundtrack to it, where like the song choices just kind of emphasize, I guess he's like, this is art, but it just makes me feel like this feels more like a film student who wants me to believe this is art than actual art. It's like, oh yeah, look at the song choices, they're so serious and like dramatic and low key, and that's so that sequence just particularly like bummed me out. But then I really liked it's a storyline that doesn't feel like it pays off, and maybe it paid off a little bit more in the theatrical cut, but I liked the idea of Barry being like this kid who's not a superhero. Like, I'm not ready to save the world, but he has to be, and he has to step up to it. They kind of do that a little bit when like he gets injured and he like has this very intense reaction to getting badly injured. And then they pay off at the end when he's the one who turns back time and saves everybody. But that felt like it didn't feel like it was earned. Like I wish they could have built in, because I would have bought like Barry Allen as an awkward, scared kid if Snyder could have just built in a little bit more humanity and emotion to make me feel like he was scared. But he never
Yeah.
feels like mugging for the camera scared. He never felt like genuinely scared.
I like that take on the character, that he's like, you know, basically Spider-Man, you know, he's like the young one, and he's like, you know, I can run really fast, but I can't, like, you know, fight guys or whatever, and sort of like, you know, learns he has like something to add as well or whatever. Um but it really is just like all the creative decisions along the way that make that totally fall apart. I mean, Ezra Miller is just, he's a mess. And something that really, this is maybe a little like nitpicky, but something that I can't stand about the Flash in this movie is I think his costume is so stupid. And I think the design of it is so ugly. And it's like it screams to me, somebody looked at the Flash's costume from like the comics and whatever and was like, well, we can't do that, because that's dumb. That looks dumb. Like red spandex looks dumb. Let's put him in this like robot suit with a bicycle helmet, and you know, give him this thing where he's constantly shooting electricity out of himself, which is really confusing to me, because I'm just like, is he just shocking everybody that he's around at all time? Because it's
I'm
just
not sure.
lightning constantly firing from his body. But you know, it's like all those things combined just make this character, which could have been something interesting, just completely insufferable. And that moment at the end of him turning back time, you know, like, I mean, it looked pretty, but like it didn't feel earned, you know, it didn't
Yeah,
feel like that was
I
his
could
arc.
feel, I felt Snyder like pulling at like, all right, this is the emotional climactic moment of the movie, and just it not firing the way he wanted it to.
And why does
but
he
I remember,
run so stupid? Every time he runs, he's like doing these weird things with his arms. All right, I'm done. You can go.
Yeah, I it's because he's standing on a treadmill on a green screen and just flailing madly. When I watched that moment, I wanted to be invested in that emotionally. Like I just remember seeing it and just being like, I wish this worked, because
I feel the same way.
visually it's stimulating. The music works. This works, and I love the idea of this kid who just couldn't hold up. Like he's not Superman, but he looks up to Superman. I don't know why he looks up to a Superman who murders people and hates his job, but hey, whatever. But like, I love the idea that this kid becomes the hero, but it did, like you said, it didn't feel earned. That being said, I like that moment a lot. One of my favorite moments in the movie is the centerpiece action sequence in the sewer. I think actually does work for me. And there's a really cool moment where they bring all the people outside, all the scientists or all the people who've been captured by the parademons. Is that what they're called? Parademons?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So they're all brought outside, and then there's like the building starts to collapse, and the Flash zips really quickly and like basically moves all the pieces so that the people aren't hurt. That was a really, really cool moment. And I actually got a little like, oh, maybe this won't be as awful of 4-hour viewing experience as I'm afraid it will be. I also I liked him running around the center of the thing. I liked him poking the sword and bouncing it back to Wonder Woman. There's some cool Flash stuff in here, and Ezra Miller is a great actor. I've seen him in stuff where he's been awesome. I really wish they could have toned down. It's a Zack Snyder movie. It's not supposed to be funny. I would have given him a pass here. I don't need the Flash to have these insufferable one-liners. I would have expected him to take them out. He doesn't, and it makes the Flash really obnoxious.
He does have a lot more in the theatrical cut, and they're all really bad. There's like a whole speech about brunch that was cut mercifully.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, the Flash, I think, is the character that I most wanted to like, and I also like, of all these characters, like I think I like the Flash the most of like these characters' origin character, you know, the comics. I think I like the Flash the most, and I want to like him when I see him in like an adaptation. But like this was like a case where I was just like, there's just so many wrong steps taken. And I felt that same frustration that you did in that ending moment, because it was clearly supposed to be this big, powerful thing. And I just didn't feel anything. And I was like, I wish I was enjoying this.
And
I
he's
wish
talking
this,
about his dad. He's like talking about his dad, like, Dad, I'm
yeah,
doing it for you. And I was like, oh, if you had made this work, it would have been really powerful.
it would have been
But
really
like,
cool. Yeah.
we'd seen is like one awkward scene with him and his dad where he's like, Dad, they're gonna tase you. You're
Yeah.
gonna get tased. And it's like, is
Oh,
this
God.
supposed to be funny? What is going on here? So yeah, that's the Flash for me. Another missed opportunity. Who should we do next?
I want to talk about I want to jump away from the heroes for a second and talk about the
Okay.
villains. I want to talk
Okay,
about
let's switch it up.
Steppenwolf and Darkseid.
Okay.
I have seen people commenting on this movie, and I want to hear your response to this, Sean. I want to know, because you're the defender in this conversation.
I'm trying. I
Um,
think I'm doing a really bad job so
I've
far.
heard people telling me that like Steppenwolf is like the new gold standard for movie villains. That they were like, actually, like in this cut of the movie, like I really felt sympathy for him. I think he's a really sympathetic character. Where do you stand on the character, on the very memorable character of Steppenwolf?
Yeah, Steppenwolf. Okay. I agree that they gave him something to sympathize with in this cut. Like, it's like, oh, he just wants to be good for Darkseid, or bad for Darkseid, I guess is how you'd refer to it. So you have sympathy in that regard, I guess, in that like he's working for a guy who doesn't appreciate him, and it's like, ah, shucks.
We've all been there.
Yeah, we've all been there. I don't know. In a world where Thanos and Infinity War exists, and like they put so much care and effort into making you like sympathize with that villain, and for me, frankly, I thought they succeeded.
Yeah.
To come from that and then to look at this like cartoonish, goofy, not remotely like I look at Thanos and I empathize because you can see Josh Brolin's performance in that character,
Mhm.
and this it's just like a gray blob monster.
Yeah, he's
man,
a mound
and,
of CGI, basically.
yeah, and I appreciated that they gave him like in theatrical cut, he's like he's a nothing character. He's just the guy they punch. So in this, he's still basically that at the
Yes.
core, but they give him a little bit more. That being said, it wasn't like I was watching those scenes being like, oh, so compelling. It's basically every scene is him saying, the mother boxes, I'll get them for Darkseid, and Darkseid showing up and being like, you better. And no joke, I think almost every part of the reason the movie's so long is almost every scene in the movie, it should have been like 2 minutes, but for some reason they're like expanded to 5 minutes. So that is in essence like all of Steppenwolf scenes are him saying that, and then somebody saying, you better get the mother boxes. But instead of it being 30 seconds, like I just described, it is blown up to 5 minutes. And it's like, they just repeat like, all right, the mother box. Yes, I get it. It's important. I understand. And they do that scene over and over again. So to me, Steppenwolf is about as deep as a MacGuffin is. And a MacGuffin is the object that it's like the Lost Ark. It's the Ark of the Covenant in Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's like the plot driving element that the character is pursuing, but it doesn't have, it's nothing more than just an object. And that to me is what Steppenwolf is ultimately, as are the mother boxes.
I felt the same way about Steppenwolf as I did about Ares in the first Wonder Woman movie, where I was like, oh, here's like a CGI thing for them to jump and punch at. How compelling! Like,
and I think everyone agrees that was the worst part of Wonder Woman, is the fact that happened at all.
Yeah, and I mean, that is what, like, Ares, I think his design, he looks like a fucking transformer, where it's just like, it just looks like nothing to me. It's like there's so many like weird little moving parts that it all just like, and it's such a ugly, just like gray design that it all just blends into nothing. It's basically just a blur, as far as I'm concerned. And like, I guess they gave him like something of him wanting to please his boss, but that's not like
has
interesting. That's not like interesting.
It doesn't go deep. It's like, well, okay, why do you love Darkseid? Like Darkseid, you're bad guys, you're evil. There's no depth to it. And also, I think what I appreciate more than the actual villain is that theatrical cut of Justice League felt like, okay, whatever. It felt small stakes. It didn't feel like, if anything, this cut does feel like bigger and grander, and there is like, oh, the world's going to be destroyed. Like I didn't get that from theatrical cut. I got that from this. So I appreciate them building up Darkseid. I appreciate them building up Steppenwolf and trying to make it feel like there's some sort of thing. That being said, I didn't need like 2 or 3 20-minute flashback sequences that show these giant CGI battles that have nothing to do with the forward momentum of the current story.
So I could not disagree more that this movie felt like it had like higher stakes. I mean, to me, it felt like it had the same stakes, if maybe even a little lower than the theatrical cut. And the reason for that is, I mean, Steppenwolf is already nothing of a character. Like, he's good at swinging his axe, but we know that Superman is invincible and will just defeat him with no problem. But so that's not an issue, and that happens in both cuts of the movie, so who fucking cares? But the dark side is really who I wanted to focus on here, because I cannot think of a worse introduction to a villain than how they introduced Darkseid in this movie, because they have this whole like, we were calling it a Warcraft cutscene, because it felt like watching the opening cutscene of Warcraft 3 or just the Warcraft movie. It felt like that. This whole like stupid, like, big, like, and all the armies clashed, like, dumb CGI nonsense. So they have Darkseid, who, from my limited understanding of his role in the comics, he is like the big bad of the DC universe. He's this unstoppable, monster force. They have him come out of his spaceship, and he's like, it feels like it's supposed to be the scene in Lord of the Rings where Sauron shows up at the battle, and he's just like taking dudes out with his mace. But when Darkseid shows up, he's completely overwhelmed.
And don't they beat him up right away?
They beat him up immediately, and he's so covered in arrows and so thoroughly humiliated that he has to be dragged back to his ship unconscious by his henchmen.
That's a very good point.
It would be like if in Infinity War Thanos was like, I'll take the Hulk by myself, and then the Hulk just beats the shit out of him.
I agree with that. I think the vibe of having the sequences at all, and having these big scale battles, and also having Wonder Woman explore this ancient tomb where she finds like hieroglyphics of dark. So they're building it up and they're making it feel a little bit more like, oh, high stakes. But you're absolutely right. When that happened, I just remember Sarah and I looking at each other. I was like, wait, is that Darkseid? Is that who? Wait, so just a couple of punk kids just shot him with an arrow.
That's all you need is a bow and arrow, and he's done. So he's not much of a threat.
No, that's a very good point. So, Darkseid, and it also felt like, I think Zack Snyder made this Snyder cut with the intention of, but there's a part 2 that eventually maybe my fans can hashtag around me and make, get $200 million from Warner Brothers. I don't see that happening.
Well, he's already revealed all the details about what he wanted to do after this.
I assume he gives Darkseid a really compelling character arc in part 2. But here he is what Thanos was at the start of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is like the purple guy with the helmet, and he says, "You'd better take these guys out, or I'm gonna be mad." So to be fair, maybe Justice League Part 2 would have had an Infinity War situation where it's like, "Oh, I sympathize. I'm interested in this villain."
I highly doubt that.
Yeah, I don't.
There's no way.
I don't think you're wrong to doubt that.
Even in the comics, like, Thanos is like they give him like more than like nothing, and like everything I've read about Darkseid is just like, he's bad, but he's like really bad, and he's like he's a bad guy.
That's true. I don't know if there's a Darkseid comic that we should look at, but I've always felt the same way, where I'm like, Darkseid, he's just the big bad guy that exists to be
he
punched.
Shoots dumb lasers from his eyes.
Look, that's perfect for Zack Snyder, but I need a little bit more. So who do we talk about next? Want to talk about Wonder Woman? We talked a little bit about her exploring the caves.
Perfect segue into talking about Wonder Woman is, boy, I wish they had gotten somebody else to narrate that flashback. Because man, Gal Gadot, she just like does not have charisma. She's just so boring.
Well, I thought she was really great in Wonder Woman. I actually like Wonder Woman. Now I'll be clear. I thought Wonder Woman 84 was real bad.
Oh yeah.
I think I like the Snyder cut more than Wonder Woman 84. I never thought I'd live in a world where I say that, but it's true. And 84 is just so atrocious. But one of the things about Batman v Superman that concerned me was that Gal Gadot came across as kind of, like you said, a charm void, like a black hole. Like
Yeah,
she
she's
just
very
came,
wooden.
very wooden, very stale in her delivery. And in Wonder Woman, she had some variety. She had fun. She was enjoying, there was some stuff to play with there. And in Zack Snyder's Justice League, it's like she's back to being the boring blank slate she was in that.
100%, yeah.
And there's a semi cool, I guess, action sequence where she defends a bunch of people from bullets and then murders the bad guys. Is that
Which,
something Wonder
like,
Woman does that I missed? Does she murder people?
Well, she vaporized that guy who, I mean, okay, this is a very like dumb nitpicky thing, but that guy's plan was to send Europe back to the Dark Ages by blowing up one bank in England. I don't really understand how the mechanics of that plan would work out.
I think the Red Letter Media guys pointed out that Wonder Woman's whole goal was to prevent a bomb from going off, but then she herself becomes the bomb that blows the guy out the window.
Which it's awful convenient that her shockwave only moves in that one direction forward, because she did it right in front of all those hostages, and me and my friends were like, "Wait, did she just kill all those people?"
And doesn't the little girl say something like, "When I grow up, I want to be just like you"?
God.
It was stupid, but I can't remember what the line was, but Wonder Woman's response made it worse. Like, I could have accepted a girl saying, "Can I be you when I grow up?" Wonder Woman, she goes, "You can be anything you want to be."
God.
And I was like, I was going to give you a pass for the dumb little girl saying that, but then you had to hammer it home with Wonder Woman's line. But Wonder Woman, she is a charisma sucking void, and I like Gal Gadot in the first Wonder Woman film. But I guess I didn't like her much in Wonder Woman 84.
No.
I didn't like her in Batman v Superman, and I didn't like her here. She feels kind of lost, like she doesn't know what she's doing there, and the way she says, Kal-El, no, you are the last son of Krypton. It's
as if
like,
these are two characters
Lord.
that like know each other. When they spent
how does she know what Krypton is?
Spent 20 minutes together fighting a big CGI cave troll from Lord of the Rings, and then he died.
And they all hated each other, but suddenly I don't have much to say about Wonder Woman. She's another.
She completely fades into the background of this movie.
She and Batman are they are about one and the same. So let's talk about Batman. I think I talked about him a little bit, but I want to be clear. I love Ben Affleck. I don't love Ben Affleck as Batman. So to me, I could never get over. Every time he's on screen, I'm like, it's Ben Affleck. It's not Batman. It's not Bruce Wayne. It's Ben Affleck. And then you add on top of that the fact that he is just so useless in this movie.
Oh yeah.
I felt like they give Batman so little to do. He's always kind of like hanging around going like, what's going on here? Or like getting punched or getting thrown at something. And it just emphasizes like how useless Batman is in this realm of like demigods, and why Batman works so much better as like a separated, grounded character in his own universe. But Matt, how do you feel about Batman in this movie?
It feels I've always been the type of person who's like, why does the Justice League hang out with Batman? It doesn't seem like he has that much to offer them. And this movie feels like somebody trying to make that argument. This movie feels like somebody being like, actually, Batman probably shouldn't hang out with these guys because they don't really need him. I guess they need him because they're like, oh well, we need like somebody with a plane that can like send us there.
You can fly places, yeah.
But I mean, like Wonder Woman's got a jet, so and the Flash certainly doesn't need transportation.
And again, in theory, if this was a narrative that had worked and a character arc that had worked, if I'd been happy with Batman's character, like, oh, Batman v Superman, he goes from being like murdering, he's lost all faith in humanity, to like Superman giving him hope. If that had worked, I would have liked the idea of Batman finding his hope in uniting this group of people.
Yeah.
Because there are some nice little, like, they set it up a little bit. There's some little moments where he's like, I have faith, Alfred. And you get the sense of like, oh, a character that would have worked if it was better written or better directed. But the payoffs for the character don't work at all. And Batman, like the Flash, how they set up Flash to have this like emotional climactic moment, it feels like it just isn't there. Like it's like the beat. I see the beats Snyder is going for, but they don't pay off. If that makes sense.
You know
So
what? It's so easy to point to the Avengers movies, really, and even Age of Ultron, and say, just do that. Look at how much better that is. But I mean,
well, I
like,
think that's why they hired Joss Whedon. They thought like, hey, please just do it again, but for Justice League.
but I mean, look at Hawkeye. You know, like before those movies came out, nobody gave a shit about Hawkeye. Nobody could possibly care about Hawkeye. But all of those Avengers movies, especially like Age of Ultron and like Endgame, make you like actually care about this guy. You know, like it's they take these characters that like you know nothing about. You have no like sort of like collective unconscious understanding of, and make you be like, oh, like this, he's like a guy who loves his family and he's actually very good with a bow. That's very impressive. And it's like this movie does the opposite. It takes these characters that you do know a lot about just through like osmosis, and then makes you be like, I guess they're not that interesting. I guess they don't really have anything.
I guess I don't like them.
I guess they don't have anything to say or do. I guess Batman.
I would never expect. I'm telling you, a couple weeks ago, if you had told me Cyborg was my favorite character in the Justice League movies directed by Zack Snyder, I would have been like, you are insane. There's no way. But it's true. And again, Ben Affleck, I don't think he's up to snuff for Batman. I don't. He seems kind of over the whole thing too. I think the Batman v Superman reviews really bummed him out because he was hoping to not repeat the Daredevil thing, but he kind of did repeat the Daredevil thing, and he seems kind of tuned out, like he's ready to go.
He does. He felt that way very much in the theatrical cut, where he has way more zingers.
Yes.
That's the big change between the two, is he's full of zingers in the original movie. But in this one, he just kind of, much like Wonder Woman, he just kind of seems lost, and is just kind of like, I feel like every scene with Batman is him going like, oh, well, that didn't work. What else could we do?
Yeah. Can anyone, somebody else jump and punch the big bad guy? Because I'm going to stay over here with my
it's like,
my grappling hook, and also I can swing around a lot.
I couldn't convince Aquaman to join, so I got nothing. Do you guys have anything? What do you guys think we should do?
I know what we should do, Matt. I think we should talk about Aquaman.
I don't have anything to say about it. He is like,
I have something to say about Aquaman. He takes his shirt. Everyone in these movies takes their shirts off constantly and leaves their pants on. I say go for all of it. Take off the shirt, take off the pants. Aquaman is constantly wearing a shirt, removing it to go in the water, but he leaves his pants on. Why? Just why? Go, Zack Snyder. You know you want a full buck naked. It's an R-rated movie. Just show us some booty, some Aquaman,
or at least
booty.
in like a little Speedo, you know, like
in a little Speedo,
like
please, anything. But that's my big thing about Aquaman. I know they like gave him even less of a personality because I didn't like him in the theatrical cut. I haven't seen the Aquaman movie, which I hear is atrocious.
No,
and
I have not either.
All they did was they made him a little bit more serious. I like Jason Momoa fine. I thought it was hysterical when he, this is early in the movie when he goes into the water and they start singing this mournful song, and I was like, this is a Zack Snyder. It was like, this is absolutely a Zack Snyder movie. That's the thing about Zack Snyder is people are like, oh, his vision, and his vision mostly equates to lots of slow motion and like really mournful songs in like awkward situations that they just don't work. And then the girl smells his shirt, like she just sniffs. I just remember being like, wait, what is going on here? That's my overriding memory of Aquaman in
really,
that movie.
Really bothered me in the theatrical cut, and is still in this version totally unchanged, is there's the sequence where he like goes and jumps in the water and starts swimming, but he doesn't move when he swims. He just shoots. He shoots through the water like a torpedo. And I'm like, couldn't you at least like make him wiggle his legs a little bit or something? It just looks weird to me.
Also,
when he's just
the air bubbles, like the air rooms they create. I'm like, look. Okay, this is a guy who talks to fish, who can breathe. Just commit to, like, I am fine if they talk to each other underwater. You don't have to explain like, oh, water gets in their lungs. It is fine.
It raises
you
a
really
lot
like
of
went out of your way to explain how they talk to each other underwater. That to me, it was like, this is so stupid.
it raises a lot of questions about Atlantean society, because it's like, oh, so even they find being underwater a hindrance.
Inconvenient.
Even they
Yeah.
don't like this. They don't like the lives that they live. Why does Atlantis have a throne room? You can't sit underwater. Why do they have a chair?
Well, it's like they have that, but then they have to create these air pockets to talk.
Yeah,
To. Like,
and
again,
does somebody
commit to it?
Does
Commit
somebody
to how
have
stupid it
have
is.
to like exert effort to do that? Is there like always somebody who's on air bubble duty who's just like, guys, hurry this conversation up? I swear, like I cannot do this much longer. I agree. Just like lean into it. Like make him ride a seahorse. Like whatever. It's goofy, but like make it work. It's not impossible.
But the problem is, like, by Zack Snyder's insistence that it isn't goofy just makes it goofier.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the whole problem that people don't seem to understand. It's like, no, Zack Snyder trying to convince me this is so serious just makes it feel dumber.
He seems particularly clueless with Aquaman, because you and I were talking not long ago about X-Men movies and about X-Men Apocalypse, and how I feel like X-Men Apocalypse, which is not a like great movie, or not Apocalypse rather, Dark Phoenix, which is not like a great movie, but I think one thing it does well is having scenes where all the X-Men are using their powers in tandem with one another,
Yes.
and they're functioning like a team. There's that whole sequence in the street where Cyclops is like leading the team and shooting his lasers, and I was like, this is actually pretty good. This movie never does anything like that. This movie never
No.
has them like all using their powers and like complementing each other. I mean, there's like that part where he pushes the sword back, but I think Aquaman is what I want to really key in on here, because like the whole final battle in like the Russian nuclear town, he's just stabbing things with his trident, and he's like
Yes.
jumping around and punching stuff. Like he's not using his Aquaman powers to like any beneficial way.
That's a good point. Like, the Flash and Superman are the only ones who like have something unique to bring to the table. Like,
Yeah.
in that the Flash is fast and Superman has laser vision, but essentially everyone else and Batman is just completely
he's got guns,
meaningless and worthless.
He's got a lot of guns.
Yes, he's got lots of guns. But like everybody else is just, they jump, they punch, and they like act like insane, super crazy super beings. But,
Yeah,
like,
and it's like
they all function essentially the same way.
There's such an opportunity there with somebody like Aquaman, who has such a weird and unique power set, where you can have him like rise
like
from the ocean and
a
like
whale,
shoot
or
sharks
like a
at people.
whale.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
he flings a whale at somebody.
Yeah,
Like,
you know,
come on
like, or
now.
like have him flood the chamber with the mother box in it, or like do something where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
Aquaman, you know, there needed to be a scene before they have that like final assault where it's like, okay, here's what everybody's gonna do, and here's like your powers working specifically, you know, something that has them give me a reason that there's a Justice League. Both movies fail to justify why there's a Justice League, especially when there's Superman. It's like
Yeah.
you have this group of people who don't particularly like each other or have any chemistry with one another whatsoever, and then once Superman shows up, he makes them all completely redundant.
Yeah, they're basically like, great, all right, you handle it from here. And the problem is Superman, like you said, his line when he goes, not impressed, which was emphasizes Superman's like nature in these films, just like so
This seems like the
entitled
segue
and-
into talking about
Yeah.
Superman. I think we're in the Superman section.
We're in the Superman, and Superman's at the center of this movie. Like,
Yes.
he is, for half the movie, they're talking about, oh, Superman, if only Superman were around. And I'm thinking, like, Superman has done nothing to endear the populace to
People
him.
should
And
hate him. He destroyed that city.
The movies have gone through great lengths to explain why Superman is an awful person and why why I shouldn't like him. So for them to turn it and say, oh, he's a hero to everybody and kids love him and da-da-da, I'm like, I don't buy this.
There's no
at
way.
all. Superman being dead is probably a good thing in this universe because he's done nothing remotely helpful. So they bring Superman back to life. And one of the, so I thought the sequence where they rescue all the scientists from underground that's probably the sequence that works best for in the movie for me. But I also, it's pretty much maintained from the theatrical version, but like I really enjoy the sequence of Superman fighting everybody. There are
Just
a couple
beating
bits,
them all up.
yeah, just beating them all up. But there's the one bit that actually earns a genuine laugh from me is when the Flash is like running up to Superman thinking he's got the upper hand, and then Superman just turns and looks at him, and the Flash goes, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble." That legit works for me. I think that's a really fun character moment, and it's one of the only times where Ezra Miller's mugging for the camera actually like works.
See, I see where you're coming from with that. It's just, again, that whole sequence serves to undermine the entire concept of the movie by demonstrating without like any sort of counter argument that like, no, these guys are all worthless. Like Superman
Yes.
is invincible
I
and
wish,
unstoppable.
they did not have to have Superman come in and be like completely invincible. They could have had like like the moment at the beginning where they axe, like that would have been fun, but then show Superman getting beat up a bit, like show him like not being able to handle things. But like he does come in and just like start punching, like there's no chance. So you could have done that, but you didn't.
And
Um,
I love in that same sequence when Batman shows up and it seems like everybody just left him there at Zod's ship, and he's like
yeah.
literally like huffing up.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey guys, what did I miss? Uh-oh, Superman's fight." And you can like see the look on his face of just like, "Well, I
Yeah.
have literally nothing to offer."
and then Lois and Martha show up to, like, I guess this is a semi Man of Steel 3. It like ends Superman's arc. Lois and Martha in this movie are baffling to me. Lois spends most of the time being depressed and
Yes.
sad and like not moving on. Like, I love him so much, but like also their relationship was kind of weird and icky to
It's
begin with.
so funny to me that Zack Snyder's original vision for this movie was to have Lois Lane fall in love with Batman.
Yeah, well, they're basically the same person. Batman's actually more cheerful than Superman in these movies. But like one of the scenes that I think best represents Zack Snyder in general is the quote unquote touching scene between Martha and Lois. Like they're talking, and Martha's like, "You got to get back out there. The world needs Lois Lane." And then it's like, "Oh, I guess this is. I don't really care about the Martha and Lois stuff, but like, okay, this is a nice emotional beat." And then she leaves and turns into the Martian Manhunter, which raises so many questions. How does the Martian Manhunter know who Martha Kent is? How does he know what the relationship? I don't know if he's a psychic or he just knows these things, but like it was like, okay, so the emotional moment is undercut by Zack Snyder's need to have like, oh, a cool fanboy thing. That to me feels, it is so,
And
it's such an encapsulation of Zack Snyder in general. Like
And
he
I
misses
love
the point completely to like do this ridiculous little Easter egg
I
that
love that
again is never going to pay off.
Martian Manhunter is like, no, it is crucial that I step in and encourage Lois Lane to keep writing articles and living her life. But when it comes to the alien that's trying to wipe out all life in the universe, I'm gonna sit that one out. I don't need to get involved with
But
that fight.
Someone also pointed out in the nightmare sequence where it's like Lois Lane was killed and that's what set off the apocalypse, I
Right.
guess. It's like, why didn't the Martian Manhunter take her place?
Yeah,
Couldn't that have prevented
why didn't the Martian Manhunter do something? That's
anything?
the scenes with the Martian Manhunter felt to me like the scene in Rogue One where it cuts to C-3PO and R2-D2 for no reason. They're not interacting with any characters, and they just like, oh, what's that ship? And then just cut away, and we never see them again. That's what it felt like to me. Just like, look, there he is. It's the Martian Manhunter. And I just saw a review today where somebody was like, say what you will about Zack Snyder's Justice League. He doesn't kowtow to like just fan service stuff. He's not here for that. He's here to tell his story. And I'm like, I don't think that's true at all.
I don't buy that either. I think we're grading this movie on a curve for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I missed the goofy Superman being Superman stuff from the theatrical cut.
I did too.
By the
I
time,
surprisingly did.
I really wish Superman could have been a little bit more like, all right, guys, don't worry, I've got it from here, or something goofy, like instead of the dumb macho nonsense that really gets Zack
Like,
Snyder off. But
the scene in the theatrical cut, which is so dumb and serves no purpose, but I kind of like it. I wish it was was when he races the Flash at the end of the movie, when he's like, this is just for us, pal. He's like so nice, and I'm like, oh, actually, maybe this Superman is like a fun guy. He and the Flash are just hanging out, like.
Yeah, instead of just like, miserable, sad, angry. So, but again, it makes sense because in a better plotted out trilogy, quote unquote, for Superman, I think he would have started with the black suit and ended up in the red, blue, and yellow suit.
Right.
But for some reason, and I know it's in the comics, but what annoys me so much is Zack Snyder, you could just tell he could not wait to get Superman in that black
Oh,
suit.
yeah.
It is like red, blue, stupid. That's so lame. Let's get him in a black suit so he's dark and punches guys. And I just like when he walks out in that black suit, I'm like, sure, yeah, but why not? I couldn't care less.
I like that there's no in-universe reasoning at all presented. He's literally just walking down a hall of uniforms, and he's just like, the black today. I'm gonna go with the black suit today. And in talking about Superman's arc, there's something that I think so like again, this movie is constantly undermining itself, and I think one of the biggest ways that it does that is with Superman. They make this huge deal about like Superman's coming back and he's bringing hope back with him. That's like the whole thing. You know, they literally have, when Superman comes back, he flies above the planet just so that he can like stand like Jesus,
You can pose like
floating
Jesus, yeah.
above the planet, and then like flies down and saves the day single-handedly. And there, I guarantee you, there's somebody in the comments or whatever being like, actually, he does not defeat Steppenwolf. Aquaman stabbed him with his trident, and Wonder Woman cut his head off. No. Clearly, those guys were not needed at all. They literally were just kicking a man when he was down at that point. Steppenwolf was so utterly defeated. But so the movie's presenting this idea of like Superman is hope, right? That is so completely undercut by the nightmare sequence at the end, confirming that Batman was correct and that in the future, Superman is one bad day away from becoming this tyrannical monster. Like Superman is ultimately a great threat to the world and will kill everybody.
Well, he's basically like, is he a sociopath who only cares about one person? So when Lois Lane dies, it's like Lois was his only tie to humanity, which...
And
again,
he's just subservient to Darkseid now. He's just like, all right, Darkseid, I'm on your side. And I guarantee you somebody's like, I don't know, but the anti-life equation, hypnotize it. No. I don't give a shit. The whole movie is telling us that Superman needs to exist and is super important, and then immediately says, oh, but also Superman's going to kill everybody in the future. And actually, this is the greatest threat mankind has ever known.
That's what annoys me is I think that's the version Snyder cares about the most. Is
for
the
sure.
Superman who murders everybody.
That was his vision for the next movies. It was going to be the bad future playing out, and then at the very end, we get the Flash fixing everything. That was going to be his vision for the next two movies, was all Mad Max apocalypse bullshit. That's what he wanted.
Yeah. Let's talk about the epilogue of the film.
Yes, the nightmare.
The last 30 minutes of the film were almost like the most Snyder-esque, and by association, I guess, that made them the most annoying. Like it was just like, the movie goes on after the movie. What's unfortunate is I had a lot of goodwill for the movie. Like I know I'm beating up on it, but for the 2 to 3 hours of that lead to this action sequence, I was pretty like, this isn't terrible. This isn't my cup of tea, but it's not bad, and it's definitely more coherent, and there are things that work about it. I kind of started to lose those good feelings when we devolved into like this just like incoherent special effects extravaganza with everyone punching and zapping each other. And then I really lost the goodwill during this last like 30 minutes of like teasers for future films, dream sequences, Martian Manhunter cameos, and an appearance from Jared Leto's Joker that like flat out destroyed whatever kindness I wanted to offer the film. That really, really, I was like, this movie, maybe it's like a 2.5, 3-star movie. And then Jared Leto showed up and I was like, what am I thinking? No, is
there any more Batman moment than Batman turning to the Joker and saying, I swear to God, I'm gonna fucking kill you?
Man, that was so like, by that point I groaned, but I groaned so much, like it was just like I had nothing left. Like it was just like, this is this movie. Like this is Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah.
Of course Batman would say that. Of course, like Jared Leto's Joker would show up at the
Why
end.
is
And
he still in the Batman suit in the future? Like the Flash still wearing his costume. I'm like, okay, that's like his suit or whatever he needs it. Deathstroke again. I don't know what he could possibly offer in a fight against Superman, but like, okay, he needs his body armor or whatever. But why is Batman still dressed as Batman? Is he worried that these other survivors of the apocalypse are going to learn that he's Bruce Wayne and out
yeah,
him?
but doesn't like Joker call him Bruce Wayne?
Yes, he does. So people know who he
So,
is. So he's just dressing like Batman, but then putting a trench coat on
but also
top
trench
of
coat and
his
goggles. Yes,
Batman
yeah.
suit for no reason.
The ending was, I mean, Jared Leto is the very definition of insufferable
Oh my
in this
god.
role. And it really like, I know nobody believes me, but I really was trying, like I was trying not to completely be like, I hate this. I don't hate it. I didn't I didn't like it, but it's like overall I think my reaction to the film was like it's okay, but man, that nightmare stuff and the Joker stuff really like tried my patience and really grated on me.
Oh my god. I mean, also like in what universe is that how you tell a story where you have like the climax happen and then you have this extended sequence of just characters talking at nauseum about like this you just cut to this like future world. It's like people always complain about like, oh, there's 500 after the credit scenes in Marvel movies, but those are always like 2-minute little like guess what's coming next. It's like a preview of the next episode or whatever. This was like a 20-minute sequence for a movie that doesn't exist and won't exist.
I guess like Snyder's thing is like, well, this is how I would have made it if I was, but it also feels a little irresponsible of him to and like inconsiderate to get the fans' hopes up again because Warner, he clearly, this is where I think you might be spot on and like Zack Snyder's kind of a crappy person. He clearly does not have like, he put that in there purposely. Like he wants to rile up the fans so that they'll do their hashtags again and annoy the crap out of Warner Brothers.
Because that was the
And
sequence that they went out of their way to actually film.
yeah,
That was that wasn't even, it's not like that was sitting on the cutting room floor and they cleaned it up. No, they like went out with Jared Leto and with Ben Affleck and actually filmed that stupid bullshit.
they were like, sure, do whatever you want, Zach. We're not going to interfere. But I feel like that's a real, like, for them to give him all that money and then for him to put in a blatant teaser for a movie they're not going to give. Like, look, Justice League did not make money. If this was the film that had come out, it would not have made money.
No,
And
people
this
still would have
movie,
hated it.
they put more money into it, even though it didn't make money. So they're technically losing money, but hoping to make it up in HBO Max subscribers. But like, there's no universe in which Zack Snyder is going to get $200 to $300 million to make another one of these movies.
No.
It's not going to happen. So I look at that and I'm like, why are you twisting the knife? Like, do you really want to give fans this false hope? So that was just annoying. The fact that there's no real conclusion, the fact that like Jared Leto doesn't know how to laugh, I guess. Like I can't even, I don't even remember.
Oh
Like he
my
just goes,
God.
"Meh, meh, meh." I don't even know what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. It was so, that was what bothered me, I think, is at the end of everything. It was like, you know what? They gave you $70 million to do this, and now you're just riling people up even more. Like there's going to be, now I have to deal with more fans being like, there's a Snyderverse sequel that we need and the
Yeah.
world needs it. And it's not going to happen. So
I mean,
I lost a lot of goodwill for the movie because of that. But also that sequence is like so bonkers and awful and so Snyder-esque that it's like I almost wish I could have seen that movie because that would have just been so insane instead of like overlong and kind of dull in patches.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just like if that's the stupid bullshit that he wants to do, just like go right to that instead of making us wade through all this incessant, just like nothing characters and boring storytelling. But even then, like I wouldn't enjoy that movie either. So like, I don't want that. And I want to talk about the future here for a second because like what does this mean for Warner Brothers? Is Warner Brothers going to take this as a lesson of like, oh well, I guess we were wrong. I guess maybe that is the kind of movies we should be making, because I really hope not. I really hope
I
this
don't think
doesn't
so.
lead to that.
They've been very clear about like, we're done with Zack Snyder. Like, thank you, Zack. We appreciate it. We're done. Like, they've been so firm about it. Like, to the point where it's like they could not wait to get this off their plates. I remember
Yeah.
when they screened this for executives, there was a story about how the executives were like miserable and they just couldn't wait to get this out. Like, great, it's out, it's there, we did it, we're done. And that's how they feel about it. Now, there has been some success. The reaction has been positive. I do not see a world, again, in which they give like Zack Snyder another $200 million to make another Justice League movie. Could it? Maybe, but it seems like such a movie that wasn't going to make money in the first place for them to then give more money to. And in a world where now movie theaters are not going to be bringing in the same amount of money that they used to bring in,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to happen. So I hope not. I'm knocking on wood because who knows, but like, I think there seems to be a general vibe of like, no, we did this favor for you and now you're done.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, the trailer was just released on this day of recording for the new Suicide Squad movie. That actually looks like, hey, that could be fun.
It looks like fun. And I'm excited for Matt Reeves' Batman. I think the trailer was great, but I love Matt Reeves as a filmmaker. I love Robert Pattinson as Batman. That's exciting.
I mean,
so I'm excited for that.
I hope that they. I mean, I don't really want Warner Brothers to do anything, if I'm being totally honest. I don't like that studio very much. But I mean, like, if they're gonna insist on making more DC movies, I hope that they don't try to do more just like giant, big, weird universe shit.
Yeah.
Just keep giving these properties over to like different filmmakers who have an idea and let them like run with it.
And passion for it. Like, people
Yeah.
who like don't let somebody who hates Superman make a Superman movie. Like, I mean, Ta-Nehisi Coates is a great writer. I don't know. I know he's written Black Panther comics. I didn't love those, so I'm kind of like, what's his interest in Superman? But that's kind of exciting. And J.J. Abrams, I think, is producing that, so that's exciting. So I have hope. I have hope for like that. Like, each superhero gets their own vision. Let's just focus on like making the best Superman movie we can, or the best Batman movie we can,
Yeah.
or the best Flash movie we can. I do not think we'll ever see an actual. This movie will never get made. But I agree. I don't want this connected universe. I think I did a terrible job defending this movie.
No, I was gonna say you came into this like, no, I'm gonna stick up for Zack Snyder.
I couldn't do it, but I will say, at the end of the day, it's a 4-hour movie I didn't hate. That's shocking to me. It's a Zack Snyder 4-hour movie I didn't hate. So that in and of itself is an accomplishment. There were things I really liked. I liked Cyborg. I liked some of the action sequences, and I appreciate what Zack Snyder's Justice League represents as far as an artist achieving a vision. So there you go. Those are my 2 cents.
Here's my summation of my thoughts on Justice League. And if my hate for this movie didn't make people mad before, what I'm about to say is absolutely going to. I think that the theatrical cut is better ultimately.
Oh my god.
And I feel that way because by default there is less of it, and it is an experience that is over sooner, because I think that, you know, Cyborg and Darkseid and all this stuff aside, at their core it's the same movie. It's the same beats and it's telling the same story. And I'm as disinterested in it the second time as I was the first time. But at least the first time, it was over in 2 hours and I could move on with my life. And I was able to laugh at the stuff that works so badly. And it's, you know, the first one is like this weird Frankenstein mess of a movie that doesn't work at all. And this version is this 4-hour slog of constant exposition and exhausting slow motion, and it just will not end. So of the movie watching experience, I would say the theatrical cut is a better film in so much of those reasons. I'm sorry, it's still not good, and that's all there is to it at the end of the day. It's still a bad movie. It's just a lot more of that bad movie.
I agree. No, I don't agree. I like the Snyder Cut more. I do think the Snyder Cut works better as a movie. I do agree. It is more of this, it's twice as long and the same movie, but I do appreciate it as an entity. I am just, this is not for me. There are people who this was made for. I'm sure they're very happy. I'm not one of those people.
Yeah,
But hey,
it's
exciting in some ways to see, again, a filmmaker get to achieve a vision.
It's kind of it's kind of a weird product in that it's like nobody actually needed to watch this movie, because people like me who hated the theatrical cut and hate Zack Snyder, we're gonna hate the movie. It doesn't matter what's in it. It's gonna suck and we're gonna hate it. And people who were like, release the Snyder cut, I can't fucking wait. It doesn't matter what the movie contained. They were gonna love it
Right.
regardless. So like,
Right.
the contents of the movie almost don't really matter. It's just like, where did you stand?
It's almost like you're saying
before
this
it came
entire
out?
podcast is irrelevant as well. Like
Yeah,
us saying these things is not going to change anybody's minds. In fact, it's going to make people hate us even more, probably,
Oh
or
my
love
God.
us even
What
more,
a-
depending on which side of the.
What have I done? I need to. I have to go back. I have to stop this. I have to. I have
You
to.
have to go back in time.
Disguise myself as your mother and convince you to not do this podcast.
Oh my God. Well, I guess what do you final ratings? Let's just do slow motion mother boxes. On a scale from 1 to 5, how many slow motion mother boxes would you?
Well, there's
give
only 3
Zack?
mother boxes in the movie. Shouldn't we do 1 out of 3?
They're more, Matt. Justice League Part 2.
I give it honestly like half a mother box. That's the most I can give it. That's about as much as I enjoyed this.
I'll give it. I'll be nice and give it 2.5.
Oof.
I in my Letterboxd review, I only gave it 2 stars. I knocked off a half star for Jared Leto alone. But I think I'm feeling generous. I feel split right down the middle. I don't think it's a good movie, but I don't think it's a bad movie. I just feel kind of like, all right, it's out there.
Well,
but I feel like I feel like I'll be able to get a good night's sleep. I've got a lot of things off my chest, and Matt, I thank you for that. And I hope our audience, the portion of the audience that doesn't hate us and doesn't hate you for giving half a mother box to the Zack Snyder's Justice League. If they want to hear more from you, where can they find you out on the internet?
Well, there's a little podcast that I run called The Adaptation Game, where myself and my lovely co-host, Mr. Chris Okawa, we take various media properties and we adapt them into other forms. Like we do a movie of Solitaire, the Microsoft application, or we turn classic literature into breakfast cereals. And if you're looking for an episode to listen to, I cannot recommend more the episode featuring Mr. Shawn Eastridge, where Chris, Shawn, and I decide to use a random wheel to decide fictional character matchups so that we can write versus movies in the vein of Batman v Superman. And some very interesting matchups are had, the kinds that will really change the shape of fiction moving forward. So I would definitely recommend checking out that episode. I believe it's called Matt versus Chris versus Shawn. I really should have called it Matt v. Chris v. Shawn, Dawn of Justice. Or Shawn of Justice.
Oh my God. We can't all be as brilliant as Zack Snyder. But I am at Yay Shawn Dorman on Twitter. I'm at Shawn Dorman on Letterboxd. I don't know if there's an at on Letterboxd. I don't really care. Really, I shouldn't be giving you this information because I assume Snyder fans have listened to this entire episode all the way to the end to get this information so they can then yell at me. And
yes.
I you know what? I can't blame you. So come yell at me whichever social media strikes your fancy, go for it. But Matt, thank you again. This has been such a delight. It's always a pleasure to have you on. We'll get you on for a good DC movie or even a good superhero movie someday. Maybe not. Who knows? I enjoy listening to you complain about things.
Well,
so
thanks. I would love to come on and talk about something that I like. So one day I'll introduce you to something I like.
We'll do it. And thank you everyone for listening. We will see you at the movies.
At the movies.